Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy El Nino, and welcome to the very first episode of Around the Block, the weekly pull up on the world of sports. And most importantly, welcome to the Nino Season Network, the official home for sports, culture, vibes, and everything in between. This isn't just a sports show, this is a whole network, a space where music, sports, interviews, commentary, and creative pop ups all live under one roof. Whether it's the latest in the NBA, what's moving in music, or a drop in interview with the dopest creators, we're bringing it to you raw and real. So, if you're rocking with the vibes, make sure you like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss a moment. New episodes, midweek drops, behind the scenes, the whole nine. Now, let's get into it. You're officially locked into the first episode of Around the Block. This is our weekly pull up in the world of sports. And I'm not pulling up alone. I'm pulling up with my brother, my co-host, the one and only Edgar Miguel, holding it down with me for the sports side and film side of the network. Edgar, what's good?
Yo, everything's good, man. Living life, enjoying it. Excited for this. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm ready. I'm ready to jump in, man. Let's talk some sports, cover the vibes, do some music, entertainment. Sure, we might even have to cover the P Diddy trial at some point.
All right, man. All right, so before we get started, I want to shout out our sponsor for today's episode, Mel Eats. From scratch to sip, stirring up good vibes and great bites. So let's pull up and let's get into it, right? NBA Conference Finals are in full swings. And for the first time in what feels like forever, we got a completely fresh new look in the East and in the West. No LeBron James, no Steph, no Giannis, no KD, no Jason Tatum, and the usual suspects. I mean, you got Draymond Green doing his annual postseason pop-ups on TNT, so shout out to him. It's a whole new wave, right? This is the dawning of a new NBA era, and the name stepping up right now. Who we got, man?
Let's see. Who's stepping up right now?
Yeah, who we
Oh
got?
man, they all in the
Who we
conference finals, man. I mean,
right, right,
you got Jalen Brunson over in
right,
New York.
right.
He trying to pull a hat, trying to pull a rabbit out that hat, man.
Down
Indiana's
3-1
on him.
right now.
Indiana's on
Right,
him, and
right, right,
so that brings us to Tyrese Halliburton, Mister
right.
Two Voices, two different voices, doing this.
Doing his thing. He's been cold. He's been cold these playoffs. It's been cold.
We'll talk about that later. And then you got Ant Man, Mister Baby Jordan. Um, you know, and he ain't looking too good right now either.
Oh
Because
man.
that boy SGA and OKC, oof, the MVP, oof, God,
Right.
it's tough.
So all
But those
four.
are our four guys.
Right. So all four of these guys, they've been playing at an elite level. And here's the thing: one of them is about to win their first ring and possibly be crowned the new face of the NBA. So let's break
Yes.
it down. Let's talk about it. I mean, who has that it, right? That superstar popularity, that next level dawn to them? Is it Shea with the smooth game and the MVP run? Is it
Mm-hmm.
Ant with the explosiveness and the athleticism,
Mm-hmm.
charisma? Don't forget the new and improved 3-point shot, which is leading the league in threes. In the regular season. Or
Mm-hmm.
is it Brunson, right, trying to become the next New York basketball legend? Or is it Halliburton, right, who's up 3-1 right now, right? The floor general, the ice in his vein. I mean, you saw him hit the Reggie Miller shuttle, right? Let's pull that up real quick, man. Ananobi misses the free throw. They got no timeouts. Looks like he loses the ball there, so decides to go back. The ball hits off the back of the iron, man. Goes about 20 feet in the air and falls. And there's the Shelly. Points to Reggie Miller, right? He's like, he knows he's it. But as you see there, Madison Square Garden personnel let him know there was a two, as you see here in the replay. Similar situation, right, with KD.
A little early celebration there.
Right, a little early
They still
celebration.
got the win. They still got the win.
Definitely still got the win.
Still
Uh,
got the dub. They still got the dub.
so, I mean, look, these guys have been killing it in the playoffs, right? Let's take a look at Tyrese Halliburton. Drafted in 2020, 12th overall pick by the Sacramento Kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't trade it to the Pacers in 2022. Since being with the Pacers, he has two All-Stars in 23 and 24, two All-NBA third teams, 24 and 25, averaging this past season 18 9 and 3.5 rebounds per game, shooting 47% from the field. I mean, you got an interesting stat about him. And what's that?
Oh, Mr. Halliburton.
Yeah,
Oh man, the dude. Talking about ice and veins. I mean, this guy, he wants to take the last shot. He thrives in it. Throughout the season, he was 12 of 14 shots to either take the lead in the last 2 minutes or to win the game. But in the playoffs,
it's cold.
he is 5 for 6
Wow.
when shooting either the go ahead basket or the game winning shot.
I mean, this is interesting because he is going against Jalen Brunson, right?
And
Who we're
he's
about to
doing
get
that while
into.
averaging over 11 assists. Go ahead
Yeah,
about Jalen Brunson.
yeah. I mean, most definitely. I mean, in game 4 here, he had a 30-point triple double with 0 turnovers. And I think he had about 15 assists on that one, right? I mean, and then to the stat that you were just talking about, the go ahead or game tying. I mean, he's doing it against Jalen Brunson, who's pretty clutch himself, and I believe he took home the clutch player of the year. We'll check on that and verify that, right? But Jalen Brunson, drafted in 2018, second round, 33rd overall pick by the Dallas Mavericks, then signed with the Knicks in 2022 as a free agent. That was an interesting free agency, right? Dallas didn't want to pay him. He ends up going to the Knicks, and we see what he becomes. A lot of people gave Dallas some heat for that. Luka was disappointed and sad about it. I mean, they had that deep playoff run where they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, what do you think about that, right? Uh, about Brunson and what he was viewed as during that time.
I mean, it's tough. And by the way, you're right. Jalen Brunson did win the clutch player of the year. So that's verified, confirmed. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I mean, I think I think the whole sports world owes Jalen Brunson an apology because when he was over with Dallas in that run, they made a good run.
Hmm.
He played well, and then when the Knicks signed him, I think they signed him for 104 million for 4 years or something
Right.
like that, a little over 100 million for 4 years, and everybody was
Hmm.
like, "What are the Knicks doing? This guy is a six man. He's not even like a top 20 player right now. Current players, he's not the guy that's gonna take you to the finals. He's not the guy. You know." And then you fast forward in last year, this he is the guy. We want to extend his contract. We're going to give him more money.
Right, and I think
Sure.
I mean definitely, and I think his first year, Julius Randle was still there, and Julius Randle was still the 1A first option, and I think he was living in that. But to Randle's injury and being out, he's had the opportunity to show more of his game and become that 1A player. You see, clutch player of the year since he's been there, second team All NBA. He has an All Star appearance. He has career highs this season with 7 assists and a field goal percentage at 48 percentage as well too. I mean, he's scoring 26 points. He's the guy. Is who they trust when down in the clutch time as well too. But we also have Anthony Edwards, right? Minnesota, drafted 2020, first overall pick by the Timberwolves. Still with Minnesota, has 3 All-Stars, 3 All-Stars, has second team All NBA, 27, 4, 5. And like I said, leading this season in threes over Steph Curry and shooting at a 41 clip, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's very impressive by him, right? But at the end of the day, the next guy has the MVP. SGA, Shea Gilgis Alexander, right? Drafted in 2018, 11th overall pick by Charlotte. On draft night was traded to the Clippers, right? Then traded to the Thunder in 2019 in the Paul George trade. Now, this is something interesting, right? Paul George has been involved
Oh wow.
in two of these teams or two of these players getting to where they're at
Oh
today,
sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Halliburton, right? You got Paul George going to the Thunder, which allowed Sabonis to come over to the Pacers, which they eventually flipped for
Was that
Tyrese
18?
Halliburton. And then you got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, right, in
Oh.
2019 coming over in the Paul George trade. In that exchange as well too. Since being with Oklahoma City, He's won the MVP, which is this past year. He has two first team All NBA, has three NBA All
Nasty.
Stars in 23, 24,
Nasty.
and 25, three-peat All Star appearances, right? Averaging again over 30 points, career high in assists,
Nasty.
career high in field goal percentage with 51.9%, five rebounds, right? Uh, I mean, what do you think about SGA? I mean, with all this being said and the rest of them, right? Knowing that there can only be one face of the league, right? Is it the MVP? Is it the guard out of New York trying to carry the franchise on his back? The dog in Minnesota and Ant? Or is it the floor general, right? I mean, who do you think is very much deserving of being the new face of the NBA as we go into this next chapter?
I mean, if you would have asked me um, at the beginning of the year who's going to be in the conference finals, I probably would have told you Nuggets in the
Right?
West.
Jokic,
Maybe against Suns.
KD,
Possibly Lakers
Booker,
because they still had AD at that time, right?
right? LeBron, AD.
LeBron versus
And I'm just
Jokic,
mentioning the
and then the
names here. I'm
East. In the
sorry.
East,
I'm just mentioning names to remind people like these are not who we're not seeing anymore. The
and
four
in the
guys that
East,
who we're seeing.
yeah, and in the East, I probably would have told you. It probably would have been like, oh, Boston, and then well, who's the second team? Well, maybe the Bucks finally put it together with Dame and
Right.
Giannis, or I could have pictured the Cavs sneaking into the conference
Mm,
finals, right?
right.
With Donovan Mitchell, I could have pictured
60
that.
win team this season too.
Yeah, right. Um, and I could have pictured OKC sneaking in, right? But I mean, to have these, I mean, you got Jalen dethroned Boston. I mean, that was sick, right? We saw the celebrations
Mhm.
in New York, right? SGA wins the MVP, and OKC has been pretty dominant in these playoffs. So I mean, those two teams, but now we get to where it is now, and it's like, wow, Halliburton, holy moly, man, this guy is taking over these playoffs right now. I mean,
Mhm.
we might be looking at an Indiana OKC final, you know,
Yeah.
and
I was
and
hoping for Indy and Minnesota, but SGA and Tyrese Halliburton are doing their thing for sure.
I mean, I honestly thought it would be New York against OKC, but you know, with the way I mean Tyrese Halliburton, so he has the least illustrious college career out of the three. So like the other three are like SEC Players of the Year. Jalen Brunson was on the championship teams that won two
Won
championships in
two, right? They
Villanova.
won two in
Yeah,
Villanova, right?
yeah, exactly. And Ant at Georgia State. So you know, and Tyrese comes from a solid school, but to me, I would have said Anthony Edwards at the beginning of the conference finals all the way.
Yeah.
And I still think that even if Anthony Edwards doesn't go to the finals, he's the one guy out of those four guys that I think could be the face of the league without even winning a championship this year.
I mean, wow. I mean, that's an interesting point. I guess. I mean, you saying that? I mean, SGA has an MVP
Yeah,
and probably has
sure,
the best team and chance to winning the championship.
absolutely.
But without either one of those two things, Ant can still be the face of the league. I find that interesting, and I ask you that because this is a league that's always been built off of championships.
Sure.
And I mean that's how we talk about it. We talk about Bill Russell and all his wins. We talk about the Godfather and Pat Riley and the rings that he's won between the Lakers and the Miami Heat.
Yeah,
We talk about Jordan, six in a row, right?
yeah.
And two three-peats, right? We also talk about the Lakers. The Lakers three-peated as well, too. I mean, Shaq is always telling Charles Barkley, but you don't got one of these. You don't got one of these, right? So what is it about Ant? What is it about him and his personality, his game, that makes you
It's
feel that even
it's kind
without
of
the
like
hardware, he can get there?
not as players, but in terms of like talking about face of the league. SGA situation with Anthony Edwards reminds me of Isaiah Thomas with Michael Jordan, where
Oh,
like
interesting.
people just like Michael Jordan, you know.
Hmm.
Like Isaiah Thomas won those two championships, right? And he wanted to be the face of the league so bad, but it still became Jordan's. Like, I mean, eventually Anthony Edwards would need to win a ring to solidify that. Absolutely. I think one of the things about talking about who's going to be the face of the league is that, for a while now, Giannis, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic, you know, those have been the four kind of like who's going to take over after LeBron and
Right,
Steph and KD, right?
right,
But
right.
Giannis hasn't seen a finals in how long now?
Mm.
Um, and Luca, I mean, the trade to the Lakers. I mean, we'll see.
He was
Maybe
just in the
next
finals
year.
last year with
Yeah,
Kyrie.
and I just
Shout out
think,
to Kyrie, and hearts go out to him with
yeah,
the injury, and I hope he's able to bounce back quickly.
man, I
Go
hope
ahead, as
too.
you're saying.
And then Nicola. I mean, it's does he care? Does he doesn't want to be the face of the league, man. you know, that guy is good with just riding his horses and playing in the playoffs and and just doing his thing. He's not trying to be the face of the league and sponsor stuff. Um, so I think it's interesting, because with Jason Tatum getting injured, you know, he's another guy that kind of doesn't want it. I think you were talking about that before. That Jason Tatum
Hmm.
said he doesn't really want to be the face of the league, right?
Well, that's Anthony Edwards is saying
Oh,
I don't
Anthony
want that. I don't
Edwards,
care
he
for him.
doesn't want it.
Yeah, I think Jason Tatum does want it. I think as much as we've seen him now and
It was
all the
Anthony, not
clip,
Jason. My bad.
all the sound bites he likes to steal on his, when he was on Champion. What are they gonna say now and all that type of stuff? But I
Yeah,
think he wants it. I think it's unfortunate that he has the Achilles tear
I think.
injury now.
Yeah, I think when Tatum does those things, he's definitely he's the same as doing the celly for Regiment.
With
He's an
Tyrese.
homage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Jason is very well aware that he's quoting an ex superstar that he admires, and he's
Right,
saying the same thing. It's the same way that like
right.
Kobe used to do the Michael celebrations.
I
You know
mean,
what I
he
mean?
does. Yeah,
Yeah,
facts.
he
I
would
mean,
do the
Tatum
Michael
looks up to
celebration.
Kobe and all that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
dope.
and
So I mean, but let me ask you this, right? Why not Tyrese Halliburton? Why not Jalen Brunson? Right? If it's more between Shea, who has the better team, the MVP already, just needs the chip. Is it Anthony Edwards has the Michael Jordan aura? Right? Why not the other two guys?
so with Jalen Brunson, we'll see what happens with his career, but I think he's a guy that's always going to be in the conversation. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as bad as the media made it seem when he got signed by New York. But I will say, I don't see. I can't picture myself seeing Jalen Brunson, winning back to back, or I feel like he's a guy who's going to be in the conversation. He's going to keep taking his team there. I'm not sure if he, gets over the hump. You know, we'll see what New York does. He's got his Villanova buddies over there -1. So, um, and then with Minnesota, I'm sorry, not with Minnesota, and then with our boy Halliburton, I think he's really starting to put on the villain type of
Mm,
cape on, with the
right.
Reggie Miller celebration, Selly, and you know, to me, he seems like a ooh. That's how you know it's live. To me, he seems like he's embracing that like I kill dreams. I make the last second shot. Oh, you thought you was gonna win? Sorry, you just met me. you
Who's
know,
that? Brunson?
no Halliburton. I mean
Halliburton?
that was Reggie Miller's thing too. I
Yeah.
mean, end of the game, I'm gonna steal the ball, run back
Oh
to the 3
yeah.
point line, make a three.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you thought you was gonna win? No, I stole it in the last 20 seconds. You
Yeah, I
know,
remember that. Hit two threes and then had a layup. I think it was a layup and hit two
yeah,
threes and it was a couple seconds. That was a great iconic.
yeah. So I mean, at the end of the thing, I do at the end of the day, I do think that like Anthony Edwards has the personality, the charisma, the
Okay.
just natural like aura. He reminds us of Jordan. He reminds us of Kobe. He reminds us he could have played in the '90s, and he also, especially improving his 3 point. You were talking about the 3 point shot. He led the league,
Yeah,
and then especially he could play in the modern day too. He's a guy who he the young heads like him and the old heads love him. You know.
yeah, no, for sure. You ever seen the clip of it's him and Embiid and Barack Obama? And Barack Obama is like, trying to let him know about the older guys, and he's like, "Hey man, you need to stop playing, man. I'm the truth." He says, "I'm the truth." So I mean, he has that respect, across the board, and that's it's lovely to
Yeah,
see.
and he's got the personality, man.
Yeah.
I
Well.
don't. I'm not sure people connect with Shea as much. Um, Brunson seems a little more reserved. I mean, he's
Mhm.
got that one commercial, and Halliburton. Yeah, Indiana's a small market, and I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Tyrese after this. Um,
I mean, if I had to really say, man, I think what we're seeing with Tyrese Halliburton, what Jalen Brunson has done and will probably continue to do, especially he's able to get more help, just a little bit more help. I think Karl Anthony
mhm,
Towns does bring a
mhm.
good addition, but also with Shea and Anthony Edwards, it might be a collective, man. It might be a collective at the end of the
Yeah,
day. I think the
yeah,
league has shown that we have a lot of great players, a lot of elite players, right? And some of them have
yeah,
maybe some injuries and haven't had the best of luck with, like, Giannis, and they haven't seen the Eastern or the finals in a little bit. But I think it comes down to a collective. Well, man, look, talking about the conference finals, it's they're 3-1 right now, and we'll see who makes it to the finals. Let's take a quick little look into the off season. Some things to point out. Boston Celtics. Just had the injury with Jason Tatum to the Achilles. Jalen Brown was also dealing with the meniscus as well too. They're facing a potential rebuild, and possibly having to make some big changes. All right, so Boston is confronting a significant financial challenge. They may have to necessitate a roster overall. Their projected payroll for the 25-26 season stands at approximately $227 million, placing them about $107 million over the salary cap, nearly $20 million over the second apron. Now, being an apron team is tough these days. I mean, there's a lot of restriction. You can't aggregate contracts, which just means take in more money than you send out. You lose your mid level exception to be able to sign a player at the mid level. There's a lot of restrictions that you have. This positions them for a combined payroll and luxury tax bill of nearly 500 million, which is a potential league record. Some of the notable contracts that is contributing to the strain in the financial landscape of Boston is Jason Tatum's $54 million. You got Jalen Brown's $53 million. You got Drew Holiday at $32 million, and
mm,
Porzingis at a $30 million. They also have Derrick Wright at
mm,
$28 million.
mm,
Um, to try to alleviate some of these financial pressures, the Celtics are exploring options such as trading high salary players. For instance, moving KP Porzingis, which can save them about $6.14 million in a two-team deal, or $11 million in a three-team arrangement. Additionally, shedding maybe Holiday's contract. So I mean, getting rid of KP, who they brought in to help spread that offense and give them even more of a 3 point um, arsenal, right? And you also brought in Drew Holiday, who could shoot the three and is a two-way player and lock up guards. Those are two integral pieces that they brought in to win the championship. But things are complicated, right? And you got Jason Tatum's recent injuries and how that adds uncertainty to the team's future and their performance and decision making. Brown, Tatum's probably gonna have to sit out most of that season. Brown is probably gonna miss some time. He's still trying to decide if he's gonna do surgery or he's just gonna try to manage and rehab it. But with all these financial obligations and constraints and being in the second apron, I mean, what do you think and what do you see for Boston's offseason and what they might look like for next season, and if they're able to still keep their championship pedigree, would they be in contention? Will they be a top team? I mean, you got the Pacers, you got the Knicks, you got Cleveland, you got hopefully the Sixers bouncing back to a better year with Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey. You got the Heat, hopefully able to bounce back as well too. With Tyler Hero having a breakout season and Bam being another solid force throughout the season. I mean, what do you see for Boston? What do you think of them?
How many players they play?
You play five on the floor, and
How many
you
come off the
might
bench?
maybe about three to four. So I would say maybe eight, potentially sometimes nine.
And these are five of the eight guys, and you're talking about moving two of those eight. Man, I mean, this is tough. This is tough because either you strap down and you say we give it a go another year, we'll rehab, you know, we'll make what moves we can, right? But the team stays. And you try to give it one more go, right? Before you shut it down. But if you move Drew Holiday and Porzingis to get under the luxury taxes, the two aprons, that's a rebuild. You're not going to get the kind of value you want to get that Celtics teams after you move Holiday and Porzingis back to the conference finals. You move those two guys, you're rebuilding. Like your Tatum is gonna, hey, take your time. This is a rebuild year. Brown, go do that surgery. We're gonna rebuild this year. We moving Holiday, we moving Porzingis. We're trying to sign some people, build around you two guys. Rethinking it. You're still young, but my guess is Boston is gonna keep the team together. They're gonna push forward and they're gonna shoot for one more run at the championship.
So do you
I
think?
don't I don't
So you saying
I
maybe
don't
they
know that
take?
they break it up.
So you think they take a Golden State approach? When Curry broke his hand and Draymond got hurt and was kind of a throwaway, and then Klay Thompson was still coming back from his two injuries, and then they kind of had an off year or two, I think it was, and then they came back and won it all in 22. You think that's what we might be looking at, and instead of trying, maybe they just get rid of one piece, find a way to keep Holiday, or do they get rid of Holiday? I mean, they maybe they pick up D'Angelo Russell, who'll be a free agent. Maybe are able to pick up a James Harden, maybe at a more reasonable
Here's the
price
thing:
tag.
you
And
you
that's
sit
if Harden wants to take less money.
you're playing eight guys in the playoffs. Sometimes 7, 6 guys. I've
Definitely
seen them do it.
right. Yeah,
Right.
definitely, definitely.
So so you know, with that type of mindset, it's like you say to yourself, okay, if Tatum doesn't go down, are we back at the finals?
Right.
Yes. All right, then keep the team the same. Use whatever we can. Maybe trade some of the other pieces, but we're not going to trade the core, right? Because that's the core.
Tatum and Brown.
White, Holiday, Porzingis, Brown, Tatum. That's the core of their team.
Okay. I mean,
So to trade
base,
away any part
base,
of the core, you got to get something. I mean, like, who are you going to get back for Porzingis at this point of his career? Who are you going to get back for Drew Holiday at this point of his career that's going to make the same kind of impact
maybe they do.
and
Maybe they
shed
do
you
a
some
sign
win?
and trade with Milwaukee. I mean, Brooke Lopez is a potential free agent this off season as well too.
Brooke
And he
Lopez, that would
provides a
be
three players.
that would be Al Horford's not on here. That so obviously is, but that's another key
He'll still
piece
be
for them.
there.
Yeah, he'll still be there, but yeah, that's another key piece for them, right? As part of the core right
Yeah,
there too.
yeah,
But
yeah, definitely.
I
I mean,
mean,
they doesn't give you the amount of scoring that Porzingis gives you, but
yeah, I don't
he's
know.
been
Yeah,
there, knows the
exactly.
team, knows the culture, and everything.
Yeah, but Brooke Lopez, for Porzingis, like I mean, that's he he shoots the three, but he ain't shooting them like Porzingis can, right?
I mean, he's a veteran. He's a veteran experience, and he is a floor spacer, and he protects the rim, and that's kind of what they get from KP. they got the 3 point, the spacing, and basically anchor the defense on the back end and protect the paint, protect the rim.
I mean, that's interesting. If you were telling me I'm trading Porzingis for Brook Lopez, that would be. I mean, is that something that Milwaukee would Milwaukee want Porzingis with Dame and Giannis? Does that make sense for them? The thing with Porzingis is at this point, there's the whole injury factor, right? Like you never know, right? He's you know it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they could try to move one piece. Um, Something tells me they'll keep the whole team together.
All right. Well, we'll see what the Boston Celtics does in the offseason and what the landscape will look like next season. Some other notable free agents is LeBron James. He's expected to opt out and re-sign with the Lakers. Despite the good relationship, they anticipate to be able to make some moves. But he does look to want to stay because of the acquisition of Luca, and to also add maybe some more relief so that they can make some more moves. See, also, I mean, possible also to see if they get Bryce James. They got Bronny. See if they go after Bryce. We also, like I mentioned, James Harden. Right, he has an player option for $33.7 million. He's likely to opt out and explore free agency. He's 35, and Harden remains a high level scorer, playmaker. Teams like Dallas Mavericks could be interested. With Kyrie being down and maybe missing majority of that season. They did play together with the Knicks. You also have Julius Randle. He has a player option expected to opt out. He's had a good fit with Minnesota. Um, but at times maybe they've questioned it. But I think in the playoffs he's answered some of those questions. But the teams like Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat, the Washington Wizards could also pursue him because of his offensive capability. We also have Miles Turner. We were talking about centers who can possibly, maybe fit with Boston, but he's showing interest is obviously to stay with the Pacers, but also the Pelicans and the Chicago Bulls. We got Nas Reed, player option, and he's expected to opt out. He's a former six man of the year. He started, and that's kind of what he's probably searching for in the offseason. Um, Kyrie's a free agent, and I'm sure they're going to re-sign him or extend him because Nico is building around him and Anthony Davis. So we'll see what that looks like. Um,
What if
anything that
Kyrie
stands out to
decides to
you?
go to the Lakers?
He was trying to
What
get
if
LeBron to
Kyrie
go to
says?
Dallas.
So what if Kyrie says, "Nah, I'm gonna go to the Lakers"?
What does that mean for Anthony Davis then?
Oops. They just left
That's
him by himself
crazy.
on the island.
That's crazy.
AD over there, like, come on, man.
So Kyrie going to the Lake signs with the Lakers basically
Yeah, let's say he
because
signs with the
he's a free
Lakers.
agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
LeBron frees up some money. You run. I mean, do you run? Do you run Luca at the two?
Um, Nah, I mean, I think you keep them at the one, and you run
And you
Kyrie
run
at the
Kyrie
two.
at the
But I think
two?
they would have to give up. They would probably have to give up Reeves though, maybe in a sign or trade. I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, maybe. I mean, that's interesting. Is there any other players or free agents that grab your attention and where they can possibly end up, or who you like? I even pose this question because our team is the Miami Heat. Anybody you see that the Heat should try to go after,
I mean,
if
I've
they
always been
can,
a
if they're
fan
able
of.
to make up some room in the salary cap to be able to get some of these guys.
Man, they're just gonna trade Bam out of bio. No, I hope they don't do that. Just gonna blow it up, trade Bam.
Oh
No,
man,
I mean I've always been a
I'm
fan
glad
of,
they're not
of
running it back
Julius
for me.
Randle.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean I've always been a fan of Julius Randle. Um, it's interesting. Having Ware play alongside Bam and seeing Bam play alongside a center, I do think it was beneficial for him actually.
hmm
Um,
yeah.
so I could also be interested in like a Brooke Lopez situation or you know
It's like a backup.
no, I mean even starting
And putting it
with
way back
Bam at
off
the
the bench.
four. Yeah, bring Ware
Okay.
off the bench. Have Brooke Lopez start. alongside Bam. I mean, obviously Ware is gonna come in early. I mean, Brook has got some mileage on him, but get Brook out there. Bam. You know, one of the Heat's biggest problems is rebounding. That's been
Yes.
that's been where the Heat have really, you know, in their deep playoff runs and their final runs, has been the rebounding. Just not being able to secure the rebound. The other team gets an offensive rebound, two offensive, three,
Yeah.
four offensive
Hmm.
rebounds. The Heat make great defensive plays, stop them. The
Yes.
guy breaks it or airball, but we can't get the rebound because
Yeah.
we don't have enough rebounding because we only Bam. Bam's going up to try to contest a shot near the ring and near the rim, and there's nobody that can out rebound their team. You know, that's where PJ Tucker was great. When the Heat
Yeah.
had PJ Tucker at the time,
Yeah.
he's a dog. He'll get in there, fight for rebounds. So that's one thing they're missing. And that's a hole that Brook Lopez can fill and allow Bam to play out of the four. But I also love, who I also love too is Steven Adams. Now the difference is that Brook Lopez he'll space the floor, allowing
Right.
Bam to work inside. Right. Steven
Hmm.
Adams is not really going to space the floor. Right. Um,
No.
yeah, he's more like he's like a poor man's Dennis Rodman. You know what I mean? He's gonna get in there. He's gonna rough up. He's gonna grab rebounds. He's gonna kick it out. Make some good passes. But he's there. He's there to box people out, play good D, and make sure he secures the rebounds. Right.
I mean, I think Steven Adams is a good look, especially for Bam, and if Steven Adams is rebounding and protecting the paint, it allows him to even roam even more defensively, and be able to be more disruptive in the passing lanes, or being able to switch more out on the perimeter. And being able to have that lockdown defense that's what we want. I mean, we've been a top 10 defense over the last couple of years, so I think that'll definitely get us there. I even like a Bruce Brown. Won a championship with the Nuggets. Has floated around over the last couple of years. Yeah, I think he signed with the Pacers and ended up getting traded to Toronto. I think that brought over Pascal Siakam, if I'm right. But I also like him. I mean, he's very defensive. He has a defensive versatility to him. He's championship experience. Um, he's always been a desirable target. He's very smart, and he has a 3 point shot. So I think that's also a really really good look. Um, well, I mean, let's go ahead and change pace here. Let's look at some NFL stuff. All right. I think you got us a real good story to dive into. Why don't you take us there?
Oh yeah. All right. Let's transition into our second main story here. And let's talk about Antonio Brown. For those of you who uh, have been living under a rock, Antonio Brown is a wide receiver in the NFL. Ended his career with 928 receptions, 12,291 receiving yards, and 83 touchdowns. And if you're asking if those are good numbers, yes, they are. Those are very good numbers. He also returned a bunch of punts for almost 3,000 yards and five touchdowns. Now he's got seven Pro Bowl selections, four first team All Pro nods. He's recognized as one of the NFL's you know greatest wide receivers of all time. He led
Mm.
the league in receiving yards, led him twice in receptions. And of course,
Oh
he
yeah,
also won a bowl. So
yeah. It's a
he's a
Hall of
great
Famer,
player.
man. In my book, it's a Hall of Famer
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Now, with that being said, Mr. Antonio Brown, pretty much since about 2018, has been involved in a lot of different legal battles. And most recently, there was this incident here at the Aiden Ross boxing event. Go ahead. Now, this is a brawl. Gordon Brown, he's being jumped here. That's Antonio there. Apparently, they were trying to take his chain. Here you see. Now, when he walks out of there, he's got something silver in his hand. Yeah. So I mean, and right there, you got everybody. They're running towards him, and then they run away. I say hear the gunshot, but you can see him when he's He goes towards the car, and then as he comes out, he runs out. Now, apparently, there was a physical altercation at the boxing event. All right, so what happened? What's the report? And Brown claimed that he was jumped by people that were trying to steal his jewelry. Okay, then you got all these social media videos surfacing, which is weird in itself. Um, and then there's the gunshots. But now there was another report, uh, and then Brown. Well, let's talk about this. So Brown was he was detained by the police following the incident, and then he went over back to Aiden Ross. He was hanging out with them, and then you hear him say this.
I got CTE. I blacked out. I don't know why. I blacked out, dude. I blacked out, Aiden.
Let it play
I know
twice.
I didn't know what happened. I know. I got
Listen
CTE.
to
I
this.
blacked out. I don't know why. I blacked out,
I got
dude.
CTE. I blacked
I
out.
know you did. I didn't know what happened. I know.
This is just after being detained. So just after being detained, they say no arrests were made. He got released, and that was him back at Ross. He talks about CT now. Um, Now, Antonio Brown has been on Joe Rogan before talking about he believes he has CT. You know, it's come up in other conversations now. This is what he said. This is according to Yahoo Sports. This is what he said regarding the whole situation. He said, regarding the boxing event that happened last night, and I quote, I was jumped by multiple individuals who tried to steal my jewelry and cause physical harm to me. Contrary to some video circulating, some video circulating, police temporarily detained me until they received my side of the story and then released me. I went home that night and was not arrested, all caps. I will be talking to my legal counsel, like, why are you yelling at me? And attorneys on pressing charges on the individuals that jumped me. I will keep you all posted step by step on the process. Thank you for the support and love. And that's according to Yahoo Sports. That's what the message he sent out. But now, this is where the story gets even weirder. So then TMZ comes out with a report. There's a guy named Zul Karnan Nantambu.
Is that
Um,
the guy that was involved in the incident with him that they were that he was
yeah,
scuffling with?
yeah. So this guy claims that he's had beef with Antonio Brown since 2021. He said his story is a half truth. He's a liar. He says that he actually was getting jumped by Antonio Brown and his guys. He was in the scuffle. He is one of the
I
guys in
mean,
the
that's
scuffle.
kind of what I saw. I'm not
That's
even gonna
that's been
lie.
reported. So um, he said, if you watch the video, everybody was attacking me 3 versus 1. Um, I don't know. I'm not trying to nitpick the video, but I didn't see that. But he said he went and got a gun, shot wildfire. We fight. He shot at me twice, and I quote: "They got children out there selling candy, bro. Could have hit one of them
What?
kids." He runs into me
Wait.
after shooting me. We tussling for the gun, fighting for the gun, all over the ground. Police out there, bro. Um, so this is what
He said
Nantambu
his
had to
kid's selling
say.
candy.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh my god, who is this
um,
guy?
he says, Antonio Brown, your days are numbered.
Wow, who is this guy?
uh, okay, yeah. So who is this guy, right? He's actually a Super Bowl halftime performer. It gets weirder. It gets
Wait,
weirder.
what?
He's a Super Bowl halftime performer, and he gained attention because he was protesting during Kendrick Lamar's performance, and he had a
Mm.
Palestinian and Sudanese flags. So
Oh snap! I
so
remember
the
seeing the
Super Bowl
flag when I
half
seen the Super Bowl halftime show. That's
so the
crazy.
Super Bowl halftime performer who was protesting about Palestine and Sudanese, I don't know what side he was
Hmm.
on, and had their
Hmm.
flag, so assume he was on their side, claims that he was the
Hmm.
one in the tussle getting jumped by Antonio Brown.
Wow.
With that being said, I mean, it's just wild. The point is, you know, again, Antonio Brown, he's one of these incidents once again. Guns out, gun gets fired. He gets released by the cops, and then he says, "I got CT, I blacked out." Now, throughout his since 2018, he's faced multiple accusations of sexual misconduct. There's even a lawsuit from a former trainer. One was settled. Another led to a ban from the NFL. In
Wow.
2019, The mother of one of his children reported a domestic dispute. Um, and then he also had the unpaid debts for personal assistance, a whole bunch of bills, lawsuits. And then also in
Mm,
2018, um, prior to the criminal case, he pleaded to no contest to charges of burglary and battery.
mm.
And then a lawsuit in 2018 said that Brown threw furniture from his balcony, including vases and ottoman, which narrowly missed a child. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if they just added the narrowly missed a child, but I found that to be pretty wow. Like,
Yeah.
and then so he's had a lot of issues, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now the one thing is, like I said, um, you know, Brown he talks about having CT on on the Joe Rogan show. He's talked about it in the past, um, and then one thing that I also found in all of this, um, give me a second here, is that there's been a lot of research going on from the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and because
Mm-hmm.
Brown is, they have found there's a few guys that have passed away who also took a lot of head trauma, and they had some very violent
Okay.
behaviors towards the end before they passed away. You have Philip
Mm-hmm.
Adams, who um, he ended up killing 6 people and then shooting
Wow.
himself. And when they studied his brain, they found that he had stage 2 CTE, right? Um,
And how many stages are
and
there?
what there's 4 stages, and what CTE what it does, the CTE is that it actually with as many trauma hits that you have to the head, it starts to
Right.
deteriorate your brain cells. So your brain cells start to like and just fall off, and that
Wow.
makes it so that yeah, and eventually at stage 4, they end up with dementia. And then Vincent Jackson was another guy. They studied his brain after he passed. He has CT stage 2. And apparently the NFL, according to the Concussion Legacy Foundation, they pulled $14 million from research designed to
Pulled.
diagnose
Not poured,
CTE.
but pulled.
Pulled. And
That's crazy.
according to the Concussion Legacy Foundation, they're saying that they then tried to cover that up by donating 100 million to brain research, but only a few million would go towards CTE research. And they also put $60 million towards helmets, and
Mm-hmm.
and the Concussion Foundation was saying that it is the same thing as if, like, in order to prevent car accidents, you just invested in better bumpers. That's They were saying that like better helmets doesn't
That's low
matter
key a
because,
bar.
well, they're saying like it's just how many times you get hit over time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not just one hit, but it's how many times you get hit. And this is the one big hit that Antonio Brown took. It was in 2016.
Talking on the sideline the whole time, it seemed like
Ooh.
two Vontez perfect, and yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh.
You see the hands go out? Isn't that
Brown is still down.
That's the
it's
typical
the
sign.
typical?
Of course,
Yeah,
Yeah,
flagrant,
I've seen
and
that
it's
so
the
many
loud.
times with Tua, right?
Yeah,
Jesus.
they get stiff.
Out of control.
out of
Um,
control.
and that
That's
was
going to be everything. That's going to be
Ooh.
yeah, and that was
suspension,
Vontae's
fine.
perfect. People had said that he was a dirty player. He takes these kind of hits. He was later suspended for that hit, but he also he had a pretty pretty interesting quote. They asked him about it years later. He said, "Yeah, he faked it,"
He
which
said,
I
"Who
thought was
faked
such a
what?"
like rude thing to say. Yeah, perfect. Years
Oh, you
later, they
saying
asked him
Antonio
about that
Brown
hit, and he
faked
was
it?
like, he said Antonio Brown faked it. I was like,
Oh
I
man.
don't know. So that was 2016,
Oh
and
no, man.
2018 is also That's the year, very famously, and it was the big sign where he takes off his shirt in the middle of the game, takes everything off, and walks off the field, and he quits. And that was the end. That was the end of Antonio Brown. Um,
Let's show
so
that real quick.
and here's the clip. You see Antonio Brown just gonna take it off, and it's almost like he loses. You know, yeah, he's just
Yeah, I
he's
remember this.
done.
This is basically, and they didn't want to let him go back in the game, or he wasn't gonna play, and he said, I'm done with this." It's like, y'all aren't gonna let me play. All right, when I'm out.
And that was one of the most bizarre things people have seen in a long time. And he's done, and that's it. That's Antonio's Brown, the end of his career. You know, and you know that begs the question. I don't know. What do you think? Like, I mean, does it excuse his behavior? I mean, what do we? This is the CT thing, the NFL. I mean, funding. I mean, the research. I mean, you know,
I mean, it's tough, man. At the end of the day, I mean, a lot of the behaviors, the sexual assault, the throwing of the furniture, all that, it's like, it's hard to excuse that type of behavior. Um, but you see a history here of a lot of traumatic, physical harm and trauma. And for me, the type of person that I am, I mean, I'm always gonna take a perspective of like what resources are actually being provided for this type of condition situation with players um, and programs, from the NFL, right? This is someone who put their body on the line, put their well being on the line for years as a product to bring, incitement and viewership to this league. What are we doing to protect our players and make sure that they're good? Not only just during the time that they're playing, but also, um, you know, uh, after their careers. Um, I want him to be able to get as much help as he possibly can. I know, you know, everybody has a certain lifestyle that they want to live and whatnot, but whatever funds and resources he still has, man, I just hope that he at some point in his life, he finds some type of clarity and invests in himself into that type of into the type of help and resources, so that he's better. I mean, it's tough to see these individuals. I remember Junior Seau also had CTE. He also, took his life and as well too. It's a lot of these players. And it happens with boxers as well too. I believe a boxers can develop the CTE as well too. So um, I just want him to be able to get help. I mean, it's unfortunate that the NFL has pulled funds and then try to cover up, with different funds that are not really doing anything to really help the cause and help the research. And because you, you can't know if you have CTE, or they can't define it unless you're dead. They have to be able to open up the brain to be able to identify it. So, having researches where it's going to be identifiable, before it gets to that point, and have actual plan of actions and treatments. So that's just my thing. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the behaviorism is not excusable. I mean, him, regardless if he was being jumped, they were trying to take his chain, or whatever side of the story is true. One thing I do know, he went at it in that clip, when you see what looks like a gun, and we know it pretty much what it was. You hear the gunshot. He actually fired 3 times, from my understanding. I mean, you went after that person. So, I mean, you also have the point of view of gun violence and gun control. This was at an event. Guys mentioning there was kids there. So, this is why, I doubled down on the
selling
whole
candy,
selling candies. That's
bro.
crazy. But I doubled down on the whole point of the resources and what's available for these players, and them not just being a lost cause.
Yeah.
And this very traumatic and difficult thing to have to deal with. I mean, you hear them. I blacked out. I blacked out. I got CT. I just blacked out. You know what I'm saying?
And
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think he
look,
was
man.
joking. The other guys were
No, I don't.
laughing. But I don't
Yeah.
think Antonio Brown was joking when he said that. He sounded
No, I
like
don't
he
think
was
so either.
actually saying, like, "Holy fuck, I blacked out. I don't even really know what happened."
I think he was really in that fight or flight um, mindset in that situation, and then having CTE, I think that takes it to another level. So I mean, no, I believe it too, man.
If
I
he has it,
definitely believe it. That's I think he has it. I mean, he definitely. I mean, he wasn't afraid to go down the middle, and he took a lot of hits. You know, what I mean, he's seen that one as well too.
a lot of
Plus,
experts
plus,
have been watching him, and they agree. There's a lot of experts out there that are saying he may possibly we may be seeing someone in front of us who is suffering from CTE.
well, going from off the field players or former players off the field, let's go to on the field and let's talk about some of the NFL offseason moves. All right, man. We got some quarterback movement, uh, and we definitely got a lot of skill players have moved
Ooh,
around as well too. Russell Wilson is now with the Giants. Zach Wilson also signed a $6 million contract with the Dolphins. Aaron Rodgers, he remains unsigned. Interest from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but we have to see what the decision he's going to want to make there. I know he has visited the team and the facility as well. You got Kirk Cousins. Yes, he's still with Atlanta, but they're going to be looking to possibly trading Cousins and seeing if there's a team that's willing to take on his guaranteed contract. Daniel Jones ends up with the Colts. Unfortunate what went on in New York with him. Sam Darnold goes to Seattle, which means that Geno
oof.
Smith ends up with the Raiders, where Pete Carroll just took the job. You got Brissett backing
Mm,
up Murray in Arizona. You also got some other moves. You got Justin Fields going to the Jets. You got
mm,
Javante Williams signing a 3-year deal with Dallas. Dallas also has a new coach. Nazir Harris signs with the Chargers. Kareem Hunt re-signs and stays with Kansas City.
mm.
Devontae Adams ends up with the Los Angeles Rams on a $46
Wow,
million contract. Um, Stephon Diggs joins the Patriots,
interesting.
Which Antonio Pierce is no longer the head coach. Now it's Mike Vrabel, who was with Tennessee previously. You got Hawkins heading to Baltimore. Cooper Cup, I
Oof.
thought this was interesting. He was traded to Seattle. Tyler Lockett leaves
Mm,
Seattle and heads to Tennessee. Mike
mm,
Williams signs with the Chargers. That's interesting. Evan Ingram, who's with the Jags, I believe, ends up with Denver.
mm.
But Joey Bosa, who's with the Chargers now, is with the Buffalo Bills. Uh,
Oh wow.
there's a lot of movement here in the NFL. Darius Slay, top corner, ends up with the Steelers. Javon Holland, who's with the Dolphins, ends up with the Giants as well. Though too. I mean, what do you make of this, man? All these moves, quarterback changes. What do you think about Sam Darnold getting a fresh start with Seattle after the great start that he's had? Justin Fields has bounced around after leaving. Starting to bounce around and after having a stint with the Steelers and coming from Chicago. What do you think he looks like with the Jets? Obviously, that means Rodgers is potentially on his way out, heading to the Steelers. What do you think of Geno reuniting with Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson with the Giants? They also brought in Jameis Winston as well too.
Yeah, man. To me, this speaks volumes to you got all these quarterback moves. It speaks volumes to what we saw in the NFL draft. We only saw two quarterbacks taken in the first round.
Right.
I think it was like maybe eight, nine position players, and then the rest were defensive players and offensive linemen. You know,
Mhm.
I think teams were looking at this offseason. They were saying our best bet is in free agency and signing trades.
Yeah.
In trades, and I think that's what you're seeing here. I think the league. It was a year where the free agency market was better than the draft market. Um, and people weren't, they didn't go to the draft. They went to the draft for the linemen, the defensive position players. But other than that, I mean, the free agency is I mean, it's wild, right? I mean, you got Russell Wilson. My God, who would have thought he'd leave Seattle and now he's over,
I mean, he's bounced
the Giants,
around. I
and he's
mean,
bounced
he's bounced
around.
around. He's been
You
with
know,
Denver. He was with the Steelers. Now he's with the Giants. He hasn't been the same since leaving Seattle. He had a very poor year his first year with Denver. Then he got what's it called, Sean Payton. The second year was a little bit better, but nothing. And then he goes to the Steelers last year, and he doesn't play majority of the season. He was kind of hurt. Fields was holding it down, and had some good looks, had some good games.
He came in
Um,
later in the season. He took over.
I mean,
But
well, he was there early and then late as well
yeah,
though too. He had a couple of big wins as well though too.
yeah, late
Um,
in the season too. But yeah, I mean, the Sam Darnold. I mean, he earned it. He earned that, right? I mean,
mhm.
that's definitely well earned money there. Do I think it makes Seattle contenders or
They still got
no?
DCAT.
I mean, yeah, they got. I mean, I think it's interesting. Hopkins is bouncing around now too. Diggs to the New England Patriots is an interesting move.
Hmm.
Um, with the young quarterback play there, and you know, uh, I forget the wide receiver one his name right now, but he'll be playing with Diggs on the other side, so that'll free him up. You know, um,
I mean, Sam Donald's gonna have DCAT to throw to and Cooper Cup. I mean, Cooper Cup has not shown signs of Father Time catching up too much. I mean, yes, he was injured, but as soon as he came back, he was putting up good numbers with the Rams. So I mean, do you think Sam Donald, even though he kind of plateaued towards the end of the season and didn't have a good playoff game, do you think he builds on the regular season and is able to do something if they make the playoffs? Seattle's defense has always been tough, and then the addition of Cooper Cup and DCAT is still being there.
no, they are who we thought they were. Um,
Wow. Okay.
I think that again, he played well in Minnesota. He earned that contract. I think he's going to play well in Seattle. Do I think it makes Seattle a dark horse or a contender? I don't see it. Even with Cooper Cup there, even with DK there, um, that Seattle team ran into a lot of problems on the defensive side towards the end of the year. They couldn't stop the run. Um, I thought Gino played as well as he could have played last year. Considering the way the defense kind of let them down towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Um, they were fighting really hard to put up points. So,
What do you?
I mean, we'll see. I don't think Seattle's offensive play style is the same as the Vikings. I think Sam Donald kind of, uh, he much of his success is due to the way the Vikings played last year, and I don't. Seattle's not going to play like that. They're not. He's not going to just be loose and be able to be throwing bombs. He had Addison last year. I mean, like, he had Jefferson. Like, I mean, that's not DK Metcalf. You know, love DK, right? But Tyler Lockett was the over the top guy there for a while too.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is
I'm
not
not.
there no more. He's in with Tennessee now.
Yeah, I mean, so Cooper Cup. I mean, he's not going to be your over the top guy.
No, but he
Um,
definitely be the in between. He'll break free for a
and
couple.
DK can go over the top, but DK is also like a post end kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, yeah. So I'm not. I don't see the big plays there. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I think the defense is going to have a hard time next year.
What are you thinking of Philadelphia? They're just adding to already in a dominant defense. And what do you think about KC? I mean, who do you think gets back to the Super Bowl? Do you think Philadelphia runs it back?
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think the 49ers had a bunch of injuries that hurt them. Um, the Bengals. If their defense, if they can fix that, their
Yeah, they're
offense
still
is
negotiating with their
obviously.
defensive ends as well with Henderson. I know they're still in contract negotiations and seeing if they're able to bring them back.
Yeah, so that's a tough situation with the Bengals. If the Bengals probably had one of the best offenses, just not the best offense. It's just that that defense was just horrendous.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Those
you still
games
got the
against Baltimore was high
Lions,
scoring. They couldn't hold on and close out the games. And yet, you still got the Lions. You're right.
who seem to have kept their whole team together. It seems so
Right.
most of the core of their team is still together.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you got 49ers. I mean, and then I mean the Bills. I mean, strengthening with Joey Bosa. I mean, that's great. Getting Bosa over there on that defensive side for the Bills. I mean, that's going to be a big look for them. Um, so so I'm not sure. I think KC had a very interesting run. Obviously, they signed a bunch of refs over the offseason, and that helped them get to the Super Bowl. But no, I mean seriously, like it'll be interesting to see if the Chiefs can repeat that again because that was
It's a
man,
lot of
I
close games. And a
it was a
lot of them decided
lot.
on calls.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know
Hey,
if
but I'm
they're
gonna tell
gonna
you
get
one
that
thing:
one.
you don't bet against Pat Mahomes. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
I
You
mean, I'm
don't
not
bet
betting
against Pat
against them.
Mahomes.
I don't bet against them mostly because the league won't let me.
Let's talk about a team that I don't see here making any big off-season splashes. But our hometown team, the Dolphins, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got quarterback uncertainty. What's Tua gonna look like going into the season? He had another concussion last season. We got Tyreek's commitment. Since basically at the end of the season, is talking about trade rumors. He wants to be traded. No, I'm staying. Yes, I still want to be traded. The offensive line. What is that looking like? It's been labeled soft over the years. It was really bad last year, but they did make some moves to try to help out that offensive line, but also defense. They had a lot of departures, a lot of key departures, and a lot of new faces that they have to get acclimated into the system as well, though, too. But all that being said, they might have an easy schedule on one of the easier schedules in the league. All right, let's look at some of the additions. They added Kenneth Grant in the first round. They added Jonah in the second round as a guard. Jordan Phillips as a defensive tackle. Jason Marshall Jr. as a cornerback. I'm seeing a lot of defensive players. Donton Trader Jr. as a safety. They did grab a running back in the fifth round. Ollie Gordon the second. But another defensive tackle. So basically one, two, three defensive tackles in this draft with safety as well. So they went defense heavy as well in the offseason. They picked up two linebackers, a safety, a cornerback as well, though, too. I mean, what does this look like? I mean, I don't see anything big on this. We still have Waddle. Yes, we still have Tyreek Hill, pending a possible trade. If it comes to it before the season start, we still have two at the center, but nothing huge, nothing big and different. Just a lot of changes. And names that we probably don't really know. They did pick up Addison, a running back. That's one person that we know, and Zach Wilson, the backup Tua. But I mean, what are we really getting? What are we to expect of the Dolphins? Are we maybe again in a rebuild?
I don't think the Dolphins are necessarily in a rebuild. They're more in like we don't know what the hell we're doing build. Um, like the Dolphins seem confused. They they have all these issues. The draft. I mean, good on them on the draft, right? Picking up, being defensive heavy in the offseason. But the Dolphins are so stuck to the Tua project with Mike McDaniels and Tua. They're so married to that, and they can't get away from it, and it's actually hurting them. You know, if you tell me that Zach Wilson takes over after Week 6, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, they not only Zach Wilson did they did acquire a quarterback in the last round and seventh round, Quinn Ewers. I have friends who tell me they like what they see out of him and his potential, and maybe challenge Tua or be the second or challenge for the backup job. And they also picked up Brett Gabbett, undrafted. I mean,
Low
what
key,
does
I
that say
was,
about Tua and his future with the Dolphins? Right?
I you know, if Tua ended up being a broadcaster in the next year, I would be very happy for him, man. I just want to see the
I think
guys.
think a lot of us would be. Hey man, we get it. You want to die for the sport, but we don't need you dying over here on our
No,
field
no,
and not allowing us to get to where we want to get to. I mean, prayers to
no.
him and his health and his well being, but I mean, hey man, go do that somewhere else.
I mean, look, they. I think one of the biggest signings was Westbrook Akenai, Nick Westbrook from Tennessee. Hey, that kid, he's got speed, he's got hands.
Oh
He's
yeah,
he finds the end zone. You know, that's probably the biggest
he
signing
does. Mm-hmm.
um, that they have, right? Um, Probably bigger than Zach Wilson, right? Which is the only other name, really. You do got James Daniel, the guard, but I mean that's probably the biggest name there, right? Like Zach Wilson, but that kid Nick Westbrook, um, McKinney, I mean he's explosive, smart, runs good routes. Um, that's a big addition to them in the core. My
He
problem
had 9
is,
touchdowns last season with Tennessee.
yeah, I mean he was hitting the pay dirt. My problem is the Dolphins don't play like that.
Mm,
In other words, with Tua, and Mike McDaniels, there's a lot of bubble plays,
yeah,
a lot of screen passes. You know, I think they need a quarterback that can throw it down the field, right? And that's something that they're missing. Tua has not been the answer. He hasn't been the answer for a long time now. Um, you know, maybe uh, maybe Coach Thomas was right about him. Uh, you know. So I mean, we'll see. I think that
Brian Flores. You talking about Brian
yeah, Brian
Flores and what he had to
Flores,
say about it?
yeah,
Okay.
Flores, not Thomas Flores. Yeah, Brian Flores. Um, you know, I I mean, I, I think the tour is over, and it should be over, and I think the Dolphins need to move on and start seeking a new quarterback.
I mean, yeah. I mean, definitely quick strike, timing based passing attack, heavy
Right,
emphasis on short and intermediate game.
right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I definitely want to see it down the field. I mean, you got Tyreek, a speedster, he can get over the top. Obviously, last season, I mean, he had a lot of drops, but if he can regain his star status, his dominant status, and we can, if Tua can finally get it right, or if we move forward to Zach Wilson, who has a stronger arm, and maybe that is what they're planning if Tua doesn't work out. Because, I mean, he just hasn't. He hasn't finished the season healthy. He's had these concussion issues. I mean, but as well, I mean, look at this. I mean, we're also possibly
I
about
mean,
to
Zach
trade
Wilson is
Ramsey. I
like
mean, Ramsey.
25. Oh, James
I mean, yeah, he's
Ramsey.
still in. Yeah, and then, I mean, he's 25. And what I was just about to say about Jalen Ramsey is, I mean, he might not even come back as well too. So I mean, you were talking about it's more they don't know what they're doing. I mean, so I guess they are in a rebuild. Um, but it's just frustrating, man. I mean, I think this is what we're constantly in. We'll get a quarterback, it'll try him out for 4 or 5 years, and then new quarterback, new rebuild. I mean, we just haven't had something solid under center since Dan Marino. We haven't had a gunslinger down the field dog or swag to them. I mean, we had these Chad Hennings, these Tanning Hills, these Jason Campbell's, AJ Feely, Jay Feeler. Jay Feeler was kind of solid, but a banged up, past his prime Dante Culpepper and Trent Green. Um, we've had a lot of a lot of
Jay
a lot of
Cutler and
whatevers.
Chad Pennington.
Like Chad Pennington wasn't too bad either. I mean, he got us to the playoffs. We won the division that year. But but even then, I mean, Chad Pennington was towards the end of his career. He already had the
Yeah.
shoulder issue. We missed out not signing Breeze when we had the chance and went with Culpepper. Maybe we will have a Super Bowl, but that's not the case. What the case is, we haven't had a quarterback, and we haven't had a stable head coach at all either. I mean, even though Mac McDaniel's been here for some couple of years, I don't know if he's all stable as well too. He has a past for drinking, and he's letting the whole maybe Miami Vice thing gets to his head. But I just think it's unacceptable. Hopefully, yes, the additions that they bring in defensively and on the line toughens us up because we were kind of soft last year. Yeah, actually, we were soft last year. But he has to open up that playbook. That short intermediate game is cool, but teams have scouted it. You know what I'm saying? It was fun in the first year and a half, but teams are scouting it. Teams are adapted to it, and we need to adapt and we
Yeah.
need to evolve with
Yeah.
our offense.
Yeah.
And hopefully. So I mean, we don't continue being a
Yeah, those
laughing
gimmicks,
stock
those
for
gimmicks are
Costa
not
Ricans.
working anymore. Yeah.
Hopefully Tua was able to stick around. And no, they're not working. Yeah, and you see that even with Detroit when they try to do the gimmicks, it cost them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see what we'll get from the Dolphins. I know Jalen Ramsey, obviously, he's a veteran cornerback, and if he's actually going to be traded or not, and seeing how that impacts the defense with all the new additions. Well, before we get up out of here, Edgar, who are you putting up on this week?
I am pulling up on the officiating, and I'm putting up on the media and their coverage of the Kaitlin Clark foul on Angel Reese. Play the tape. There we go. Ball comes up. Shot's going to go up.
Too strong.
She's
on
going
a
to miss
three.
it. There's a foul.
And look out, Kaitlin Clark pushes Angel
They
Reese.
said she
Angel
pushed
Reese
Angel
right
Reese.
up into Kaitlin Clark.
Yo,
Afterwards has something to
I
say
can't
as
believe this.
Clark walks away.
The women play harder than the men. That is a 90s typical foul. That is not a flagrant. That is not a tech. That is a good, hard, hey, you're not making an easy bucket. Kaitlin Clark playing like 90s men while the NBA are playing soft. They are soft. And Angel Reese, she ain't even mad at her. She just want to talk to her. Just like you do in the 90s. Hey, come over here, sister. Let me talk to you. I ain't like the way you touch me. She wasn't even crying. She didn't flop. She didn't throw her hands up. She went straight back at her. They said she was ready to fight. She wasn't ready to fight. She was ready to give her some. She was ready to tell about herself and say, hey, next time, guard me one on. And you see Kaitlin, she's pointing over to her teammate like, yo, you got to get this. Now, Reese goes up for the shot. She's coming at her. She cursing at her. Like Caitlin's like, I don't want none of this, man. I'm just a white girl. I ain't trying to fight nobody. I don't need this. Now, they say that's the push. Come on, man. That ain't no push. That's just a regular. Look at that. Boom. Goes for the ball, hits it down. She flies. So, ain't push her. Now, Reese coming up, boy. She like, yo, look, I'm gonna need to tell you about yourself. Play this little bit right here. Look at this. Foul. That's it. What are we man, if this is how the WNBA be going, I need to see more Kaitlin Clark, Angel Reese games because I like this. This is good. We need more of this in the sport.
Oh man, they definitely say they were talking about flagrant foul one. They also talked about Angel Reese hate for Kaitlin Clark and why she didn't pull up on when she was fouled like that last year and all these things. I mean, what do you think about the whole? I guess the racial aspect of it.
Man, this just goes back to them competing. LSU beat Caitlin Clark's Iowa State in the championship game, and and then Caitlin Clark becomes the face of the league, right? This is how I was saying how Anthony Edwards can still become the face of the league even if he doesn't win a championship because some people they just have it. Angel Reese, great player. Obviously, there's a lot of her game that could be worked on, mainly feeding herself rebounds. Obviously, um, she's kind of, she's having a hard time in the league. Her game has been, you know, exploited a little bit. People have figured it out, and Caitlin Clark is she's a one in a lifetime athlete. She is changing the face of the WNBA. And you got these two injuries. She is, it's like Isaiah Thomas, MJ all over again. Angel Reese is Isaiah Thomas, and Caitlin Clark is MJ. She's the Isaiah Thomas to her MJ. She's changing the face of the league. Angel Reese wants to be the face of the league so bad, but that foul that's just a bad call, man. That if it was been two different players, they probably wouldn't even have called it.
All right, man. Well, that's a wrap on the very first episode of Around the Block, the weekly pull-up on the world of sports. Today we chopped it up about the new face of the NBA, dug into Boston's offseason outlook, and addressed serious conversation around Antonio Brown, CTE, and the resources players really have. We hit the NFL offseason shakeup, question whether the Dolphins are creeping into a rebuild. And yes, we put up on the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese conversation. Again, shout out to our sponsor, Mel Eats, from scratch to sip, stirring up good vibes and great bites. Most of all, thank you guys for being a part of the inaugural episode of Around the Block. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a pull-up. Stay tapped in. This is just the beginning. You're now locked in with the Nino Season Network. Sports, culture, vibes. Until next time, keep it moving and keep it real.